everyone. I know it has been a minute since I have made my last video, and I feel so bad. I've really been trying to make a video for about maybe like the last week or so, but it's just been so much stuff that has been going on. I actually was like trying to make one about 2 nights ago and got interrupted with a necessary phone call. And then I just totally, the video just went out the back of my head after that. Anyways, so this right here is the review for The Mistake. Okay, I finally finished this book last night, honey, and when I tell you that this book was really good, it is really good. It is definitely a psychological thriller, and it is just like when you think you know what's going to happen, or when you think you know who it is, turns out that ain't who it is. So, anyways, this is going to be a pretty quick review because honestly, I don't need to, and I'm not going to tell every little thing about the book, but just kind of give like a brief overview about it. So, it's about this girl named Rose who 16 years ago loses her brother and her best friend, kind of like around the same time. There is a guy who comes into her life. His name is Gareth, and he really just turns it completely upside down. He was a lot older than her and was like, had kind of like controlled her without her really even knowing it. And really, he just kind of like destroyed her family dynamic as well as her relationship also with her best friend. Um, and the book the book tends to go from the present day back to 16 years ago. So, one day it'll, be talking about Rose in the present sense, and then it will go back to 16 years ago. And the one thing about it is that it is very good, and like with each chapter, it'll say, oh, well, Rose 16 years ago or something like that. So it's not like you're just like, what the hell is going on? The one thing I liked about this book, well, actually, there were a couple things that I really liked about this book, was that the chapters were very short. Um, Maybe 4 pages to a chapter at the most. So even though there were 71 chapters, it really didn't feel like it because the chapters were so short. And most importantly, the book was really just it was just a good read. It really kind of it kind of kept you on your toes, and it was very interesting. This guy Gareth that kind of comes into her life, um, she Rose. Well, let me backtrack and say Rose was just kind of like somebody who she didn't really. I guess it kind of gives off the impression that she was like a very plain person, plain looking girl, and that's really the way that she kind of carried herself. Her best friend Cassie was the one that was a girl's girl, really into makeup and dressing up and stuff like that. And Rose was in college. They both were in college. They were 18 years, like 17 or 18 years old. And so when this guy Gareth comes and is attracted to her, it he really kind of like sweeps her off of her feet, giving her compliments and then all this other type of stuff, which was something that she had never had happen before. And so it really just took her by surprise, and she really got kind of like wrapped up into him. And then he also managed to incorporate himself really into her life in ways where she it was like when she kind of thought that things were a little off, she didn't really say anything. She kind of like was very dismissive about it, and what it was that he was doing, because she was always thinking about her father and her family. There was a lot of, her father had lost his job some years ago, and so the village that they live in is a very small village, and where he was working at, several people had lost their jobs, and there just wasn't anything else to replace it, and um, so when the guy Gareth had came in, he was able to, give his, or help her father um, get what started out as a volunteer job at the place that he worked at, which was in the town, and then eventually he became full time. And so when things started to progress between Rose and Gareth, even though he would do things like, he kind of became a little physical with her younger brother, and also with her, not like beating her or anything, but just kind of like putting his hands, like grabbing her, or grabbing her brother or something like that, even though she didn't think about it. He would make little remarks like, oh, well, if you say something, your family will be affected by it, or whatever it is, and always thinking about her family and seeing how happy her parents were, and how different her household was. She just kind of let things slide. Um, as far as her friend Cassie went, who was her best friend, her friend Cassie really, right from the beginning, had kind of saw Gareth for who he was, and she really did not think that he was a good person at all. She tried to inform Rose that Gareth was very controlling. However, Rose just didn't see it, or maybe she did see it and she just didn't want to see it. And unfortunately, she chose him over her best friend. Um, and unfortunately, um, that just did not work out well. Her friend Cassie wound up distancing herself from Rose, and she was like, I just don't want to talk to you at all. Like, we're just not going to be friends. If you decide to choose this piece of crap guy over me, and we've been friends since we were kids, then that kind of tells me what type of person you are. And then eventually, Cassie wound up getting raped, and it really hurt. It really hurt Rose to the core, because she wanted to go and see her, and she wanted to be there for her. Unfortunately, Cassie just wasn't having it, you know. Um, and it was really sad. And then shortly thereafterwards, and Rose kind of had a feeling that maybe Gareth could have had something to do with it, but she wasn't really certain, because Gareth had made some very, like, just really mean remarks about Cassie, and saying, oh, well, she wasn't really anything. She wasn't a good person, because she was the type of person that liked to wear makeup and do all of this other type of stuff. Um, he had just said something that kind of stuck in Rose's head, and so when Cassie got raped, that thought of, did Gareth have something to do with it, really did cross in Rose's head. Um, so, and then shortly, not too long afterwards, um, her brother went. Her brother actually got abducted. They were out flying kites, and her brother was 8 years old. There's a 10-year age gap between her and her brother, and they were out flying kites, and um, unfortunately, her brother got abducted, and then they found out that he had died, and this was just like the gut to the blow, a blow to the gut. My bad. To Rose. She had lost her best friend, or not lost her, but her best friend didn't want to talk to her, and with her being raped, and then on top of that, um, and then also with her brother disappearing, it really just was something that she she just couldn't handle. Oh, let me go back. Before her brother had disappeared, um, Rose and Gareth had, there was a big situation that had happened. She was out one day, like doing something, or I can't remember what she was doing, and she and Gareth actually like abducted her. Like he took her, because before then she was like, look, I don't think this is working, but I think, we can just be friends, but I just don't want to be in a relationship with you anymore. And he came off as like real cool or whatever, like, okay, I understand, da 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 da. And then he like came and snatched that girl up and held her in his apartment and drugged her and just did all types of things to her. And she was found a couple days later, um, and that was when she had just totally distanced herself. And then everything else, it was just, all eyes were on him. All eyes were on him. Her father was very upset. Her mother was very upset, or whatever. And so Rose had decided, I've really neglected everybody that was super close to me, and let me just really start to focus back on my friends and on my family. And so her and her brother Billy had went out to go and fly kites one day, and his kite had went somewhere over into the woods or whatever, and he was like, oh, I'll go get it or whatever, and then he never came back. And somebody had snatched him up, and then when everybody was out looking for him, eventually they found his body, and it just wasn't good. um, and that really was the changing moment for Rose and her family. Um, she was just overcome with this sense of grief. And then on top of that, it doesn't say exactly how long afterwards, but I can only assume that it was just a short period of time after that. Her best friend Cassie overdosed. She overdosed on some pills that she had been taking, and it really just it just really like threw Rose into a downward spiral where she almost kind of had like where she did kind of have like a nervous breakdown and was hospitalized for about a week. And between her brother and between her best friend, it really was just too much for her. And the town the town was like looking for who could have done this, who could have killed her brother, and everybody focused straight on Gareth, knowing the situation about what he had done to Rose. He really was prime suspect number one, and he was like, no, 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 Rose, I didn't do it. I didn't do it. Please tell them. Da 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 da. He sent a big thing of flowers to her house, and he was trying to get her. He was like, the receipt on the the receipt in the bag from the flowers that I bought you can prove that I was not in the area where your brother, where your brother was. So that's the proof that I did not do this. However, she never looked into it, and he was arrested and taken off to jail for the rest of his life. Um, and so that really is the crux of the story in terms of the 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 situations, or yeah, the things that happened in her past life that really defined her and who she is as an adult, which is she really doesn't do anything. She doesn't go out. She doesn't really talk to people. She stayed in the village of which she was raised in. Both of her parents have died. Her health has taken a drastic turn for the decline. She has become bulimic. She is basically scared of everything. She doesn't go out at night and all this other type of stuff. The only person that she is very close with um, is her next door neighbor, Ronnie, who she oversees. He was very helpful with her. He was very helpful with trying to, within the search, to trying to find her brother all of those years ago. And so one day Ronnie gets sick, and Ronnie gets sick, and she calls the hospital, and the ambulance comes and picks him up, and the last words that he said to her were, "Please do not go upstairs," right? And so she's like, so while he's in the hospital, she's like, you know what? I'm going to do something really nice for Ronnie, and I'm going to clean his house up for him, just so he'll come back to, a nice smelling, clean home and all that other type of stuff after being in a hospital for the period of time. And but she still has this, well, why doesn't he want me? Why did he tell me not to go upstairs? Thought in her mind. And so she's like, well, maybe he's just kind of, maybe he just feels bad. And it's just like, maybe because the room or his house isn't in the condition where he may want it to be, just secondhand embarrassment. And so she goes up, and she's like cleaning up the bathroom and the kitchen and all that other type of stuff. And then she goes into one of his additional bedrooms, and where there are a lot of boxes. And she opens up one of the boxes, and what's the one thing that she finds? She finds her brother's blankets, which her brother always carried with him, and he had with him on the day that he got abducted. Um, and this again sends her back into a, just like a tailspin, a downward tailspin. And she is trying to figure out, oh my God, why does Ronnie have this blanket in, um, in his house? They couldn't find it, da 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 da. And she is trying, and she is thinking, did he have something to do with it? And she really is going back and forth with, oh well, he couldn't have done it, but did he do it? Why would he have it there? And da 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 da. It just brings back all of these thoughts that she has tried to suppress for the last 16 years around her brother and his, what happened to him and everything else. And then and then so she's trying to figure out what she should do, how should she handle the situation. And then she decides to she decides that the best thing for her to do is to write a letter to Gareth, who is in prison, and to talk to him. Okay, so while when she does that, Ronnie's son, Eric, comes comes back to see his father, and Eric lives in Australia. Now, I'm not even gonna lie. Eric is kind of like a creep a little bit. He's like really weird, kind of like a little socially awkward, doesn't really talk to a lot of people, and all this other type of stuff. And so when he came back, and when you kind of see his interaction, or the small conversation that he has with that he has with Rose, honestly, my first thought was, is he the one that had something to do with Billy's death, right? And then I'm like, well, I don't really know, but I think this is who it may be. And then so one night, Eric comes over to Rose's house, and he's like, "Hey, Rose, I really, really, really need your help. Blah 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 blah. This person who's like super drunk is at my house, and he won't leave. I need you, to come and help me because I know that you know him." All this other type of stuff. So she goes over there, and she finds out that it's Cassie's brother, Jed, who she was really good friends with when they were younger, but she had not seen him in a really long time. um, Cassie's death affected everybody, not just Rose, but her mother, who also died an alcoholic, and now her brother Jed, who pretty much has gone down the same road of being an alcoholic as well too. So Jed is over there, tore up, and he is just like stumbling and fumbling all over Ronnie's house and refuses to leave. And then so eventually Rose is able to get him out of there. And he's like, I want to talk to you, but I'm not going to talk to you in the house. I need you to meet me at the Abbey at 10 o'clock at night. So Rose is like, well, why can't we just talk here? And he's like, no, I need you to meet me at this place, right? So, of course, because her life is like, she doesn't go out at nighttime, she's kind of like panicked behind it. Um, and but she is able to find the strength to actually go to the Abbey, which used to be Cassie's favorite place when she was, before she had passed away. And so he goes there, and he is standing up on, like, he has this ladder and he's climbed up, and I'm assuming it's like this really tall wall or something like that that he's standing on top of, because in order for Rose to get up and kind of like meet him, she has to climb up this ladder too. So I'm assuming that it's like a wall or something. He's standing on a very tall wall. And Jed actually comes out and confesses. He confesses everything about what happened 16 years ago. He confesses that Gareth was the man that had actually raped Cassie. Um, and Rose is just like shell shocked. She had an idea that it was him, but because the guy had a mask on, they were not able to identify him. They just said, they just assumed that it was like some passerby that was coming through the village, but they didn't have any, there wasn't no firm confirmation on who it was. Or at least Cassie had not told anybody. And so Rose, no, so Cassie hadn't told anybody. Yeah, I'm sorry. So, anyways, so then Rose is like, but Jed, I thought that nobody knew who it was and blah, 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 blah. He was like, Cassie knew. She said she knew who it was. Yes, he did have a mask on, but when he was leaving out of the door, he actually took the mask off and turned around. And he threatened Cassie and told her, if you say anything, I will make Rose's life a living hell. And so she really, and then so Cassie had in turn told her brother Jed, and so they really held this secret the day that, until the day that Cassie had passed away. And Jed had held this secret for 16 years. Um, and so, and then Jed also confesses that he was the one that killed Billy, Rose's brother. This, she just can't believe. She cannot believe this. And he really breaks down, and it's just like, he breaks down and he's just like crying, and he's like, I'm so sorry, Rose. He's like, I've wanted to tell you for so long. He said, I promise you it was not done intentionally. It really was a mistake. He said, with everything that was going on, I really wanted all of the attention to be focused on Gareth, and I wanted to get him out of the town, and he said, I just kind of like took Billy, um, and with the hopes that people would think that that it was Gareth, and then they would arrest him or whatever, and then I would just let him go. And he said, I had my hands over his mouth, but I did not realize that I had my hands over his nose as well, and it suffocated him. And by the time that he took his hands off, you know, Billy had passed away. And he was just like, I'm just so sorry. I'm so sorry. I never meant for this to happen. Blah, 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 blah. And then, like, and then Jed jumps. He jumps off of the wall, which, and they never say to his death, but I am assuming that, or I've just come to the conclusion that he jumped to his death. Um, and Rose just really can't believe it. You know, she would have never thought in a million years that the person that she knew as a child, you know, up till now, even though after Cassie's passing, they kind of like went their separate ways and things like that. But she would have never ever thought that he had something to do with her brother's passing. Um, and she, but then after that happened, and when she got down, with this new information that she had, she went home and she actually didn't, she wasn't angry, and she wasn't sad. She really just didn't feel any type of way. You know, when you find, I don't know if that's ever happened to you, where you think that when you find something out, like you're going to be elated about, you know, this revelation, or, oh my God, I'm glad I finally know, but instead you're just kind of like blank on the inside, like you really don't feel any type of way. It was like that for her. Um, and then she goes to the, and then after that, she goes to the prison again to see Gareth one last time. And Gareth is thinking, you know, she's going to be there to like help him get out of prison and blah, 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 blah. Because on their last visit, she told him that she did have the receipt and all this other type of stuff. And he's like, great, blah, 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 blah. Mind you, this man has been diagnosed, or was diagnosed, as a sociopath. So his ability to kind of like lie to her and just do all types of stuff, was natural for him. So he's just thinking that everything was going to be great. And she comes in and she tells him, she says, look, I know that you did not kill my brother, but I know for a fact that you did have something to do with Cassie's passing. And he is just like, no, 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 I did not have anything to do with it. It wasn't me. Lying. Still, he's still lying, despite the fact that she knew that Jed had told her, you know, what actually happened. And so she takes out the receipt, and he's thinking that he's going to have the receipt so that he can give it to his attorney and all this other type of stuff, so they can reopen his case, and, you know, he can potentially get out. And she opens up this envelope and basically like dumps out ashes, which was the receipt that she had burned, letting him know, no, I'm not going to help you. And this literally sends him into like a fit of rage. He went from being very calm and kind of happy, thinking that she was going to help him, into a total like maniac. Um, and that's it. She walks out. She's happy about it. And then she realizes that there is no need again for her to ever go back to the prison to go and see Gareth. And now her life can actually begin. She can actually start living her life, because for the last 16 years, she really has not been living life. Um, you know, she's been stuck, about what happened to her best friend, and to her brother, and really has not moved on. Um, and so that pretty much was just kind of like a quick wrap up about, again, The Mistake by K.L. Slater. Like I said, I really enjoyed this book. I really, really did. The way that it was just written, the way that it was put together, it was an easy read. Um, if you, unlike me, and you know, child just ain't getting mixed up and stuff. This is something that you really can read. I would probably say if you're just kind of like taking your time, you really can read it in about a week. Obviously, it took me a lot longer than that. Um, but I really, really, really did like this book. The way that it was written, um, and how it was so easy to and it really was put together, even though it was going back 16 years and into the present day, and then also the way all of the characters work together. I really did like that, and it really did keep you on your toes, thinking, "Oh my God, I wonder if this person did. I wonder if that person did it." Da 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 da. I really, really, really like this book. So, um, please, 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 my recommendation is to really read this book. Um, it's, I don't know. Well, I mean, it ain't summertime, child. It's what, September 25th. So this is, I wouldn't say it's a cute summer read, but if it was the summertime, you could definitely read this book in the summertime. So yes, that is my review. And thank you so much for taking time out to listen to my review of it. And if this sounds like something that would that's right up your alley of what it is that you like to read, I would definitely recommend it. If it's a book that you haven't. Um, so yes, I'm doing really good with the time. It's only a little over 32 minutes. So I will do a little follow up video once I figure out what it is that I want to read next. There, I'm not even gonna lie. I'm actually kind of heading towards thinking that my next book may be the Kamala Harris book, but I don't know if I want to get into all of that. Like, I really don't know if I want to get into politics on this channel, even though her book, 107 Days, does sound really interesting, but I just don't know. Or if I just pull an old book out from my old book collection and just read that again. Anyways, thank you so much. I hope you guys have a wonderful day. And please like, comment, and subscribe to my channel. And I promise, I promise, I promise I will be so much better with at least putting up some little videos or something about what is going on, because there have been some great things that have been going on in my life, as well as just with some other stuff. Anyways, thank you.